Hi there everyone, this is Laura and I want to give you guys a little update video on everything that we've been getting up to over at virtualtarotschool.com, and we're going to end with me explaining a new package offer that I have out for you guys today. Basically for $147 right now, I'm letting people come and join me for an 18-week online session where I'm actually going to be re-recording all of my Tarot for Beginners course content and all of my Advanced Tarot course content. And the reason I'm re-recording it at this time is because right now it's just after the spring equinox, late March 2015. And when I actually recorded Tarot for Beginners, it was 2009 and very early 2010. So the course content at Tarot for Beginners and Advanced Tarot 201 is it's about 5 years old. And what I'm finding in the tarot world is that 5 years is actually a pretty big evolution for us as a tarot community. We have so many amazing teachers and new decks and new artists and new books around themes in the tarot that have come out, even in the last 5 years. I mean, from my perspective, as someone who first learned to read the tarot cards I was 18 years old. I don't know what year that was, but I'm almost 38 now. So I'm in my 20th year of card reading and teaching others and reading for others and integrating the tarot into everything else I do, which has included a lot of studies in folklore and mythology and yoga. And I actually produce yoga events as well as teach tarot cards at Virtual Tarot School. So for me, just coming from that 20-year perspective, with the tarot cards. When I first started learning to read tarot cards, there weren't even all of the decks shown on this screen published in the world. The one in the center of the image with the beautiful candles and stones around it is the Shadowscapes Tarot, which is an absolutely stunning tarot that most of us can now find in any Barnes & Noble store around the country. At least you can do in my little Barnes & Noble here in Flagstaff, Arizona. They're much easier to find than when I first started reading 20 years ago. When I started reading 20 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be in a city in the United States that had a New Age bookstore or two. And I went into a little New Age bookstore called Unlimited Thought Bookstore in San Antonio, Texas. And I started taking classes with a teacher at that bookstore that was doing a series on the tarot. And today, maybe that, actually I just drove by last week. I was in San Antonio visiting my mother. I now live in Arizona, and most of my family is still back in the United Kingdom, where I'm originally from. But I was in San Antonio last week, and I drove past wanting to show my partner Unlimited Thought Bookstore, and it's no longer there, as far as I can tell. So if anyone knows that Unlimited Thought has moved, or maybe something about the development of that interface land just south of Loop 410 on Blanco Road has changed since I was there 20 years ago, but I don't see the bookstore there anymore. And that's the case in a lot of towns in the United States. We may or may not be fortunate enough to have a thriving, locally owned New Age and metaphysical bookstore in our community. Maybe we just have the Barnes & Noble, and that's actually kind of the reality here in Flagstaff now. When I moved to Flagstaff 15 years ago, there were a number of independent bookstores in town. Now it's just mainly one large new bookstore, Barnes & Noble, and one used bookstore, and that's it in a town of 70,000 people. But even as our stores and storefronts have been diminishing, what has happened in our online universe as tarot enthusiasts and deck creators and artists and teachers and readers is tremendous. Because in the same amount of time that maybe our little local stores closed down, we all got online. And today there are so many amazing people in our tarot community who are publishing through online formats and teaching through online formats like I am. And it's actually kind of better in some ways, because now I get to teach people from all over the world, whereas 15 years ago, I could just basically, supplement a larger teaching career by teaching, at the little New Age bookstore to 5 or 6 people one evening a week. And now I'm teaching tarot and tarot related and yoga and bodywork related courses online 4 or 5 days a week. I'm teaching a class, and that's due to me becoming an online teacher. Well, there's a whole community of tarot artists that have connected in and started being real influences on me because I've been following them online and because I've purchased new decks that they have created since I recorded the 2010 classes. So in the 2010 classes, I had some amazing decks included for you to study in the classes that I taught. But today in 2015, there are so many more decks that I want to include. And decks that are older. You also see some older images on the screen, along with the beautiful Shadowscapes tarot on the image in the center there. You also see some much, much older decks. Some decks that hailed from the roots of some of the oldest known tarot decks on the planet to still exist in a complete deck format. Decks that hail from 16th century Italy and 17th century France. And in the last 5 years, what has happened in our community of tarot researchers and historians is we have been taking the idea of the tarot more and more as an evolving medium that isn't necessarily always the same 78 cards expressed the same 78 ways. The new decks and the older decks had different combinations of cards, different numbers of cards, different groupings of cards, and the art reflected this, and the art still reflects that evolving archetype of the tarot as a universal system of human wisdom. Some of us choose to divine with it, some of us choose to study it, some of us choose it as an introspective tool to learn more about ourselves. And the whole study and the whole community of the tarot enthusiasts has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 5 years. So on one hand, I'm very, very excited to re-record Tarot for Beginners as a new course offering because I just think it's time for an updated course. I would like to teach about the tarot as we see it today in 2015 and what people are doing with the tarot in 2015. And we're going to be honoring all of the lineages and the roots and the history of the tarot. That's also very important to me. I was actually a history and an archaeology and an anthropology emphasis in my university studies long before I was an English literature and folklore and mythic studies emphasis. So the history is also extremely important to me, but I think the thing that has really become clear to me over the last 5 years is that there is a history of archetype and wisdom expressed in the traditional 78 cards of the tarot that is being carried through into beautiful, gorgeous new decks that really speak to our soul, speak to our sense of beauty, speak to our sense of harmony and unity and connection with all that is that we choose to allow to influence our modern day lives. And I want to update the course so it can express that more fully. So in the Tarot for Beginners course coming up, we're going to be doing a lot of things that I did in the old course, and the old course recordings are still available to you for all of this package if you choose to come on board with us today, as well as you'll be getting the schedule of the new courses that are being created and uploaded for you to enjoy every week. And every week for the next 3 to 4 months, the teaching schedule that we're on right now at Virtual Tarot School is basically popping up 2 or 3 free new 1 to 2 hour classes a week for you to enjoy. So you really have a chance, if you come onto the package today, to have a very current, very live experience with me on the live recordings and the brand new recordings that result from those live sessions. Even if you can't join us live, the recordings will be new. They'll be all downloadable for you. That's going to change from a streamable format for the old classes. These classes are going to be downloadable or playable via streaming and the internet. And you'll also be getting a PDF workbook companion to each course that we go through. In the first courses, we're going to start out with the basic overview of the tarot that has always been the foundation of all of my courses. I'll be teaching you very basically about the 4 suits of the tarot that you see here represented with the 4 aces of those 4 suits. We're going to be talking about the meanings of those suits, how they correspond to the 4 elements, and so on and so forth. And then we're going to go on to look at the suits in greater detail, to look at cards 1 through 10 in each of the suits. You see them here with the wands and the cups numbered 1 through 10. This is a basic layout of any basic tarot deck. The images shown are the Rider-Waite tarot deck cards, which are very often used, by the way, in the tarot teaching community, because the copyright for this deck, well, it was originally produced in 1910. So for the most part, for teaching services and teaching courses, we use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, not only because of the copyright deal, but also because it is a very foundational deck in the tarot. Many, probably the hugely vast majority of tarot decks that have been published since 1910, of which there are thousands. We really kind of had a resurgence and renaissance of the tarot industry, along with, publishing becoming easier and easier for people to print off copies of anything over the last century. So along with that advancement of technology, we've had a resurgence of interest in the tarot and a resurgence of just thousands of decks. A true renaissance of the tarot has really happened in the last 100 years. But the deck you see here is the Rider-Waite-Smith, and it really is, as it was published in 1910, it then became, and Pamela Coleman Smith's images on these decks of cards really became known in the tarot industry as sort of the blueprint images, and lots of artists, I would say the vast majority of all tarot artists since then, have actually based their newer decks images on the Rider-Waite-Smith interpretation of the cards. There are an older series of cards as well, but these are sort of the ones that a lot of us look at. So before I actually go to the Major Arcana, the one thing I wanted to say about this and the previous slide was, so in each of these suits, and here on this page you see the swords and the pentacles, here on this last page you saw the wands and the cups, we have numbers 1 through 10 of all of the cards. And this 1 through 10 grouping is really a grouping of depictions of human experience, and human experiences that in some sense are universal. And so the numbers 1 through 10 are also interesting to study just number by number, because you will see them, you will see a 3-ness to all of the 3s, for instance, and we talk about what that 3-ness is. And you will see a 5-ness and a 6-ness and a 7-ness and an 8-ness and a 9-ness and a 10-ness to all of those numbered cards throughout the decks. And there is a universal experience of the 10-ness of all of the 10s that we talk about, for instance. What is that 10-ness? Well, it's something about completion. It's also something about being able to see the big picture of where something has taken you ultimately. And all of that is in the number 10, sort of as an archetypal association that we have with that number. Well, we talk about all 10 of the numbers in that way. We've talked about the 4 suits, And then we talk about what is beyond the 4 suits and the numbers and the court cards of each deck. And we talk about these funny 22 other cards that are in a deck of tarot cards that you're not going to find in a deck of playing cards. A deck of tarot cards has 56 cards because there's 4 court cards and 4 suits of 10 cards. But then there are 22 other cards, and these cards are pictured here. We call them the 22 major arcana of the tarot. And really and truly, I'll show you another layout from another teacher of the major arcana cards. But the same 22 cards are depicted here too, and just a slightly different, this is, I believe, the universal weight, and this is the traditional Rider-Waite in these images. Same 22 cards. And these 22 cards are really what I call the big deal cards in a deck of tarot cards. When these cards come up in your reading, these are not just minor cards with a number and a suit on them. This is the Tower, the Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune. These are the big these of the tarot. And as such, they are really sort of the very transformative universal experiences that Carl Jung believed were a part of the collective unconsciousness. He argues that these experiences are beyond any of our day-to-day experiences, chopping wood, carrying water in our ordinary human existence. The minor arcana cards, the 56 other cards in a tarot deck, they deal with that. But here in the majors, we have something different. We have something that transcends our ordinary universal experience of the material world and really comes into the realm, of the collective unconscious. And, these are universal big deal experiences for the human. And what you find when you study these 22 major arcanas, especially if you study them this way, you can study them as the journey of the hero. That Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell talked so much about being sort of the universal pattern of story that is sort of hardwired into us as the universal story of the hero's quest. Whether we're looking at Harry Potter or Odysseus or Christ, we see this same template of the story of the journey of the hero. And what we do when we study the major arcana cards in Tarot for Beginners is we see them in terms of that larger story, the hero's journey story, and they become very easy to remember what each card is, quote unquote, about, or what the card might, quote unquote, mean if it shows up in a reading. It becomes very, very easy when you see the overall pattern of these cards, and you just spend an hour or two talking about which part of the story you're in each of these cards. At the end of that class in Tarot for Beginners, you come out of that class and you get it. You have it. You have the tarot. You may not even need to ever pick up a book on the tarot again, because we teach in my classes through story. So in row 1 of the major arcana, I talk about the earth journey. And in row 2, I talk about the air journey. And in row 3, I know it says row 2 on this, sorry about that, it should say row 3, we talk about the spirit journey. And we do all of these in story format because it's just so much easier to remember that way. Another thing we do in the Tarot for Beginners and the Advanced Tarot classes I have coming up, and this is one of the things I'm really excited to expand on 5 years later as I re-record, because there are so many more beautiful and newer and different examples of all of these cards from all of the new decks that have happened in the last 5 years, and all of the older decks and all of the deep influence decks like the Rider-Waite-Smith that you've been seeing images of in this class so far. But I am very fond of drawing on and showing you examples like this of different tarot cards in parts of my teaching, because different cards interpret that card's energy differently. Different decks cards interpret them differently and feel differently, and are more eye-pleasing or more meaningful or more touching to some of us rather than others. So as you go through this course, you also kind of get a chance to shop around and see different tarot decks images. You saw probably the name there, the Alexander Danilov, that's the artist of this tarot deck here. This is the Haindl Tarot, Haindl. It's a little bit of an older tarot deck today, but this was one of the decks that I first learned the tarot with when I was learning how to read tarot cards 20 years ago. And then, of course, we have much, much older influences, the historical cards from early France and early Italy and early England to draw from as well. We're also going to be looking as we get into more and more of the advanced work, but we'll touch on this in the Tarot for Beginners course too. You may have noticed if you sign up for 147 today, you actually get not only Tarot for Beginners, but about 3 or 4 other courses as well, and about 4 of those we are re-recording. So you'll also have a chance for the same 147 investment right now to dive into some more advanced work later on with us. In the advanced tarot classes, we teach much more on I'm going to be including a whole new unit on the correlations between the tarot and the Kabbalah, and on the correlations between the energy systems that we see described in ancient healing sciences like Ayurveda and yoga and Tai Chi, and some of the most ancient healing sciences on the planet have archetyped for us various energy systems that influence the human energy system. We hear a lot today from our healers, even in the West, about energy and vibration and frequency being so important. And we're learning so much about how our frequency and our energies and our vibrations and our thoughts and our words and our language and the environment that we surround ourselves in, how that influences and affects what we manage to manifest in our life and what never does. And the interesting thing about the energy studies and the Kabbalistic studies is that I found that the Tree of Life diagram here, and you see sort of some of the major Arcana cards superimposed onto this diagram, the Tree of Life, I'll blow up parts of this for you as we go through, actually correlates rather well to the chakra system that you see described in Eastern energy works like yoga. And what we do in some of the advanced studies is we take all of this knowledge of the human energy systems and how people have chosen to archetype experiences of the energy body, and we relate that right back to the tarot for you, because each and every one of these cards also has an energetic quality to it. It also, the archetypal vibration of each of the 78 cards of the tarot carries a lot of medicine in it as a vibrational medicine. And this, I believe, is what the Hermetic Orders of the Golden Dawn and the Rosicrucians and all of the people in the 1800s and early 1900s that we see coming up through the secret societies who had tarot decks or used tarot decks as part of their work and their ceremony and rites and rituals. What we see with all of them is an understanding that really the ultimate power of the tarot goes much, much further beyond divination. It goes into truly the ability to manifest and improve and better your life. Because if you can take these tarot cards and work with them in a true tarot practice, just like you would work with your body and your spirit connection in a yoga practice, you can develop a tarot practice, and that can lead you into a much more connected, much more fulfilling, much more positively able to manifest whatever you want in life. And that is really what I have found in the last 20 years of actually working with the tarot myself. I had some psychic and intuitive experiences early on in my childhood. I actually grew up in West Country, England, around where most of the crop circles actually occur. But more than my psychic and intuitive development, that really kind of got its start before I even opened and touched a deck of tarot cards. What I found the tarot was wonderful for was for bringing that experience of intuition into a format that I could make sense of, that I could do something with my rational, logical mind, so that I could take my intuition through the tarot and say, this is what you actually need to do about that. And that gives you a prescription, really, from your reading to take out into the world with you. And it improves your life. It betters your life. Here are just some of the books that we'll be using as resources in all of the work, the Tarot for Beginners work and the Advanced Tarot work that you get in this course package today. I have a couple of recommendations for books for you, but the most beautiful thing about this course that I really want you guys to understand is that you don't actually need any books. I will be pulling from these books for you as we go through the course. So all you really need, I would recommend for you to go through any of the courses in the package that we have for you today, is just to kind of shop around and begin looking for a deck of tarot cards. Make sure if this is your first deck, that it is a true deck of tarot cards, meaning that it is all 78 cards in that deck. So it doesn't matter to me what the decks are called, what the decks are renamed sometimes. So, for instance, the tarot card that is named Death in the Major Arcana of the traditional tarot, a lot of new decks choose to rename that. I've got a beautiful deck by Carol Bridges, the Medicine Woman Inner Guidebook and the Medicine Woman Tarot that Carol Bridges put out, renames that card as Sunset. And the Osho tarot deck that the Osho group put out, very Zen sort of perspective on the tarot in the Osho deck, they rename death as transformation. And both of those are perfectly fine renamings of that archetype. So it doesn't matter to me what the decks, what the cards in your tarot deck are named. You can literally pick up any tarot deck as long as it's actually called a tarot and it has a minimum of 78 cards in it. The Osho deck has, I think, 79 or 80 cards because they add a couple of archetypes. And there are a couple of tarot decks out there that will serve you perfectly well. You'll just sort of refer to their companion book for any extra cards that they have. But if they've got a minimum of 78, they will have all of the 78 cards that we will be walking you through and teaching you how to read from any deck in this course series. So I'm just going to just revisit the offer that we have here for you today and describe why I'm discounting it so much. As you can probably see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little stars as bullet points on this slide for you. And those 6 stars represent the 6 courses that you're actually going to get access to included in this package today. But the package cost today is nowhere near what those 6 courses add up to individually. I think I'm just looking at the screen with you guys here and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, there's definitely $1,000 and a couple of $100 worth of courses in this course pack today. I'm not going to add it up exactly because I don't do math very fast in my head, but it's about $1,000+ worth of course material that you get here today. You're only going to pay $147 for all of this if you enroll today. And I do have a limit. I am going to be only accepting 50 people into this enrollment of $147 for this whole pack. And the reason that I have to limit it is because Tarot for Beginners and Advanced Tarot 201 and 202, the combo classes there, and the Tarot of the Energy Body course that you see down there is the 447 value, the 5th line down. Those 3 to 4 courses, and I say 3 to 4 because I'm actually doing a new way of teaching through Advanced Tech 201 and 202 that kind of combines them. So I'm just going to start calling that course 203 when it's done. And then Tarot of the Energy Body and Tarot for Beginners. Those are the courses, 3 new courses that I'm actually going to be recording for you guys live over the course of the next 3 to 4 months. And we've got individual teleseminar times scheduled for you guys where each of those courses re-records. And that's what I want to give you access to, is the live teleseminars. When you buy this package, you also get all of the current recordings for Tarot for Beginners and the Advanced Tarot classes that are there for you to access instantly. Likewise, all of the Celtic Cross Spread Practice Reading Series is instant access, and the Chakra Intuition System is up as an instant access course too. I'll talk about those two a little bit more in a minute. But the Tarot for Beginners and Advanced 201 and 202, I want to re-record. You get the current recordings for those classes, so you can go through them tonight if you want to. Well, it would take you longer than tonight because Tarot for Beginners is currently about a 16-hour course in total. So I used to teach it as a weekend workshop. I've often taught it as a 10-week session. I'm going up to an 18-week session for Tarot for Beginners coming up now, basically because I want to put in more sessions at the end of the course where we get to do some practice readings with you. I want to show you really quickly the format that you're going to be viewing all of your courses in, and especially the live ones coming up. You'll see there's a little logo for Instant Teleseminar down here on the bottom of the left screen. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to exit out of this presentation, and I'm actually going to go to Instant Teleseminar for you guys because I want to show you what will actually happen when you go to one of these classes. So here's a class that I'm about to record coming up, and as you can see, I can go to this class and it gives me a little countdown timer, and that countdown timer actually tells me when the class begins. And you can click to listen in to the presentation directly from this screen, and it just plays for you as a live presentation, just like playing a video would do. But the beauty of having the live presentation here, and I'm really excited to be able to offer this to students, is this little question submission box right here that's also going to be included in each of the presentations, especially if you have a question that I can answer live on the call when it records for you. You'll have the schedule of all of the teleseminars coming up. You'll go to a screen like this, a link like this, to view every class in your series, and you get basically a central access class from me. For instance, here's the central access page for the Chakra Life System, which is one of the classes that you get included in your purchase today. But the Chakra Life System is recording, and then, from the central access link, you go to whichever class you want to view, and you'll click through, and you'll be taken to the Instant Teleseminar page for that event. Okay, so this class here records in 6 days, and we're just kind of going through them live. Some of the classes up in your series will already be recorded, like this one. And this one, you won't see the question box already because it's already recorded, but you can click and listen in and just view the class. So that's kind of what you get when you come into Instant Teleseminar, and what you'll be doing basically when you come onto any of the classes. So I'm going to go back to the class that's about to record. I'm about to record the first Tarot for Beginners class for you guys. So anyone who purchases, you'll have the very first class available and up and running to you. You'll also get all of the pre-recorded links, but then you'll also get a central access page where you'll see the schedule for all of the upcoming classes over the next few months. And remember, the next 3 to 4 months, you're going to get all the way through Tarot for Beginners, and you're going to be able to go through Advanced Tarot 201 and 203 with us, which make up Advanced Tarot 203, which is the new class. So all of that is going to be stuff that you can join me in live format for, like on a page like this. You can join us live, or if you come to a page where you've already got a class recorded, you'll be able to just simply take those classes and go through them. And when you go through a recorded class, here's the beautiful thing. Through your central access page, you have lifetime access to all of these courses. They will never go away, meaning that you can listen to them anytime you want. You can go through them on any schedule that you want. You also get get a chance to either view them, with the audio and the PDF workbook streamed for you together on sort of a video-esque presentation on the screen, or you can choose to download your classes so that you don't necessarily have to be connected to the internet to view them anymore. And that was something that was also very motivating for me when I chose to re-record these classes. I really wanted to give you guys that option, because some people who had been in my classes when they were just streamed, and the streaming option is by far the best, I think. Let me just click through here and show you what happens when you stream one of these classes. You'll see it connecting, and you'll hear my voice here in a minute. So it loads up the presentations and it goes through them for you. And basically then you don't have to worry about what slide you're on or what page you're on as the thing goes through. And it just simply records. So as you can hear, there's my sound, and there I am, and that's what happens if it records a little bit before I come on the line.
Already completely familiar with the structure.
But then, as you see, you can jump through the class. You have complete control of where you are in the class, and you can pause it and stop it and fast forward and rewind at any time. So, you can play them like that, or you can download them and play them as MP3s with the PDF accompaniment files. So you have those two options. So many, many more options for how you can actually take the classes, go through them live, how you can listen to them in replay. You have lifetime access. You also have live access. And as soon as you purchase the 147 pack here, you actually get instant access to all of the recorded courses. I'll talk about a couple of the recorded courses that are already up for you. Obviously, if you're a beginner, I recommend you go to the recorded classes for Tarot for Beginners if you're ready to go through them. You will see the first Tarot for Beginners class up there for you when you come in, so you can go through that at your leisure, and then you'll get an email for the upcoming class schedule and those upcoming webinar links for you in your email. So that's kind of what happens to get you started with the live stuff. And then you'll also get instant access links to all 6 of these courses, so that you can actually go through recordings. Like the Chakra Intuition System is fully recorded. We recorded that one just this last fall for you, so that one is all ready to go, and you can go through the entire Chakra Intuition System course at any time. And the Chakra Intuition System course is actually a really neat one, especially if you're into exploring the connection between your intuition and your energy body more generally. We look at the tarot and work with the tarot in the Chakra Intuition System course, but nothing really beyond where your Tarot for Beginners course would leave you. So if you're interested in getting started in the Intuition and Energy Work series and the tarot, and you want to sort of learn those two together, kind of like I did 20 years ago, then I would actually recommend going through Tarot for Beginners and the Chakra Intuition System. You could even go through them at the same time if you wanted to. And then the Celtic Cross spread is actually, it's the oldest known tarot spread. I teach it in Tarot for Beginners. Later on, after we have a handle on all of the tarot cards in the course, I begin teaching you how to read. And one of the first spreads I introduce you to is the Celtic Cross spread. It's a 10-card spread. It's a spread that's used pretty universally in tarot reading communities. It's very well understood. And the first record that we have of that spread dates back to Ireland over 400 years ago. And what I do with the Celtic Cross spread is I really sort of teach on it extensively, because I believe it's a very foundational spread. Most of the time, if I'm getting out a deck of tarot cards and reading for myself, which I do daily, I'm doing a Celtic Cross spread, because it just gives me that much information, sort of in a snapshot of 10 really well selected cards. And so a couple of years ago, I took some of my students who'd been through Tarot for Beginners, and maybe they'd been through Advanced Tarot 201 or any of my other courses at that time. I had a few on the market then. And we came into a group where people enrolled, and they sent me questions every week. And every week I would read their questions, I'd put their questions on a presentation, and I would do a reading for them. And their readings were example readings that I then put into this whole course called the Celtic Cross-Spread Practice Reading Series. And so in this series, what you get to do is you get to go through 7 weeks of classes that I did. I brought a class through every week. I think it was Tuesday evenings for a couple of hours every week. And we went through 7 weeks where all I did for 7 weeks of classes was I did example Celtic cross spreads for my students. So they got the readings, but they also got to kind of look over the shoulders of the readings being done. So I showed them exactly how I was putting the reading together, which I think is invaluable for anyone learning to read the tarot cards. If you're interested in reading, eventually, after you have a grasp on tarot for beginners, I want to give you as many example readings that you can kind of get involved in and ask questions of, or even have a reading done for you as one of those example readings. And I think that's just very, very valuable. So today, the Tarot for Beginners course is 18 weeks that I'm going to be re-recording 18 weeks of classes instead of the original 12, I think, that came into 16 recorded classes in the Tarot for Beginners course that you have access to today. The new one's going to be 18 classes because the last few classes in that series I'm actually devoting to doing example spreads for you guys. So in other words, when you come on to this class series and you come in as a live student where you can get some live teaching from me and you can actually ask me questions as we go through the course by leaving questions in those little question boxes as you go through the course. When we get to the end there, you're going to be able to submit questions for me to actually bring through example readings for you. And then you're going to get to come onto the call where we do your readings, but we do everyone else's example readings too. And that's just such amazing practice. It's some of the best learning that I ever received as a tarot reader was actually starting to do the readings themselves. So that's the reason why it's an 18-week course this time around, Tarot for Beginners. And then Advanced Tarot 201 and 202 combined is looking like it's going to be about 20 weeks altogether. And we'll get that started in a few weeks here for you because you can actually sort of overlap the material a little bit. After you go through the first I would say 4 or 5 classes of Tarot for Beginners. You can dive into Advanced Tarot if you would like. You'll be at a point of basic knowledge after the first 4 or 5 classes here with us that you'll be able to take more than one tarot class every week if you get really into it. If you don't have time to take more than one class a week, then they'll be there for you in recording and you have them in your tarot learning library for life. So that's basically what we're doing. I'll tell you more about Tarot of the Energy Body a little bit later. That's sort of my big new research project this year, and we're developing Tarot of the Energy Body to talk about energy work that you can do basically for each of the 78 cards of the tarot. So when you draw a card in a tarot reading, basically that card that you've drawn is in some way a piece of advice or a piece of medicine in a sense for you. If you ask, oh my gosh, what should I do about this situation? And then you pull a card, that's the tarot and your unconscious mind's way of saying, this is what you do. And so this is what you do should really be something that you can actively do as well as just think about, right? And so the purpose of Tarot of the Energy Body as a 78-part system of energy work exercises is going to be to activate very healing vibrations of energy for each of the 78 cards. So that you literally have a little energy work prescription whenever you draw a card that you can draw on and go through for yourself. So that's Tarot of the Energy Body. There'll be a lot more information about that because obviously that's a pretty in-depth study coming up. But I'm going to actually enroll you guys in Tarot of the Energy Body too for 147 when you enroll today because in that course I am going to be it'll be a treat to have as many seed students in there as possible because it is a very new body of work. So that's the deal. I hope you can join us. The live student enrollment is open now. These are early bird prices that you see here. After April 1st, if we have any of the remaining 50 slots available, this enrollment package will still be available, but it is going to be $247. All of that live one-on-one Q&A time. It's such a great value for me to have students who are seed students in my classes, because students really, they ask the better questions than myself as a teacher asks with 20 years of experience in the tarot. It's really useful for me to have you guys as seed students live on these re-recordings with me. So this is my way of saying thank you for being a seed student, but of course it's also kind of a neat experience just to have the chance to actually have a live class with a teacher, and a live series that is going to be this involved, that you can get in on at the ground level and really develop as a student with a lot more teacher and mentor guidance than if you simply purchased classes that were all just simply recorded. So this is kind of my way to structure a program this spring that we can have some, real Q&A with students, because I think that's incredibly valuable for you and it's valuable for me. So I hope you can join us. Thanks so much for listening in today. You'll see the button underneath this video on the screen that you're watching this video on if you'd like to go ahead and enroll. If you click through and it still says $147, then you're one of the first 50. I hope to see you on the course, and we'll see you again really soon. Thanks for joining me.